Hi everyone and welcome back to today's video on studying smarter not longer as part of the Work and Study Smarter series with me, Faith B. Today we're going to talk about studying smarter not longer. We all know the struggle of spending hours at our desks, but how often do we really maximise the time we put in? Today in this video we're going to talk about key techniques that allow you to study more efficiently, retain more information and make the most of your work and study time. So as usual, this video will be broken up into different parts. This is one of my favourite topics, how to study smarter and not longer. Let's dive in. First things first, working and studying isn't about how long you sit at your desk. It's actually about how well you use that time. Research actually shows that quality trumps quantity when it comes to learning. Instead of cramming for hours, try shorter, more focused work and study sessions. Why? Because your brain loves to focus and to repeat, not burnout. Sometimes you may think, well, if I study for 4 hours instead of 3 hours, I'll get more out of it. But research actually says that's not correct. So I think when we focus on study sessions that are shorter bursts, it can actually lead to more productive results rather than drawn out work and study sessions. So the key here really goes back to study skills because it's using active learning methods, managing your energy levels and avoiding distractions. So really this goes back to one of my favourite study techniques, which is the Pomodoro Method. To show you Pomo focus, again, for those who have followed me, you'll be aware that the Pomodoro Method is undoubtedly one of my favourite methods for studying. So let me just share my screen. Now again, just to reiterate, what I love about Pomo Focus is the way that it's structured. So we have the Pomodoro, 25 minutes per session, having breaks in between each session, and at the end of the fourth session having a longer 10 to 15 minute break. What I particularly love about Pomo Focus is that it actually tells you when you're end studying or when you're end working. So for example, let's go back to our example, looking at contract, public, criminal and tort law. Let's say for example, I start now at 5:14 and I say, okay, I'm going to do a Pomodoro. If I have no breaks in between the Pomodoros and no long break, I will finish at 7:09. However, if I then move to the short break tab, I'll actually end at 7:14. Why? Because I'm having a break between each session. And then if I say, actually, I think I'd like to have a long break instead, I click on this and this tells me, well, you will finish studying at 7:25. Now, this does two things. One, it enables me to feel more organised, but two, it enables me to plan other things around that studying time because you're actually time blocked. Time blocking allows you, and what it is blocking out time for a specific purpose, which actually gives rise and gives you an opportunity to do other fun things and complete other tasks that you hitherto might not have had time for. So if I'm studying for contract, public, criminal and tort law modules, I might then say, okay, I'm finishing at 7:25. Well, from 8 till 10, I have family time. And let's just backtrack slightly. Let's say we woke up slightly earlier and started at 10 a.m. and did the same thing. I could say, well, after I finish studying, I'm going to work, run my business, run my CIC, for example. I'm going to engage with key stakeholders. I'm going to, for example, record some content like we're doing now. I might interview some people, podcast, or head out to some networking events. Because I've actually time blocked and I've used this app, I've actually actively made time, actually record information and made time for my other tasks and indeed my other commitments. So that's part one. Part one is all about thinking about the importance of quality over quantity in work and study hours, hence why it's called the Work and Study Smarter series. So the next technique I want to talk to you is the SQ3R technique. Now, don't worry if you've never heard of it before. It's a system for reading and learning effectively. Here's how it works. So the SQ3R method is one of the most effective ways to maximize your study time and ensure that you remember what you read. So I'm going to break it down. Part one of SQ3R, the S is survey, Q is question, R is read, recite and review. Those are the three R's: read, recite and review. Let's now go into each of them in turn. Survey. Before diving into a text, skim through the material, look at headings, subheadings, and key terms just to get a sense of what you're about to read. Now, this is really important because you actually become aware of what you're about to read, and in your mind, you can start thinking about key ideas, key notions, key words in advance. Part two is question. As you survey, as you delve into the text, ask questions based on what you want to learn or the objectives of your reading. And then we're on to the three R's. R number one is read. So, read the material actively, hence why we have active recall, keeping in mind the question that you formed earlier. Part 2 is recite. After reading, try to recite or summarize what you've just learnt in your own words. This helps to reinforce the material. And the third the last but certainly not least, is to review. Review the material periodically, which helps with long-term retention. Now, I just want to talk to you a little bit about active recall. Active recall is so important because it forces the brain to pull information out, aiding in stronger memorization and comprehension. Now, let's actually pull up a succinct definition. Active recall is a study technique that actively involves retrieving information from your memory without prompts. It's a very powerful tool for exam preparation and can help you learn and understand information more deeply. I'm going to give you 5 examples of how you can actually actively use active recall. Point 1, flashcards. Flashcards are very important for active recall. Why? Because you write points on one side of the card and a question or a prompt on the other. Point 2 is practice questions, which I personally love, using past papers or creating your own questions to mimic the exam format, which again prepares you in advance so that when you sit down and do the real thing, you are actually acquainted with the types and styles of questions that are usually asked. Point 3, summarizing. Condense key points into shorter text or bullet points. Now, summarizing is actually akin to the SQ3R method because summarizing / review is part of it. It's actually one of the 3 R's. The last R, which is review, which is also akin to summarizing. Blurting is point 4. Rapidly write down everything you recall about a topic, even if it seems so random, even if it seems so disassociated, write it down. And finally, which I think can really help you build your confidence as well, teach someone else. Practice teaching a friend, a parent, or a sibling. Now, I'm laughing to myself because when I was actually at King's and I was learning actively about different political notions and ideas, I would actually sit down with my dad because he's a very well-read man. And I'd say to him, Dad, okay, I'm going to just share my perspective on Brexit. Because you already have your perspective, I'm going to share with you what information that I'd already collected and aggregated from different literature reviews. I'm going to present something to you. And he would say, well, Faith, good effort, but here are some areas, here are some gaps that you can actually insert. So there are 2 ways you can do the teach someone else. A, you can teach someone who has no idea whatsoever, which works as well, because then you will be able to know if it's taught somebody who has no idea about the notion, about that topic, you've nailed it. But also what I like actually, which makes it slightly more multifaceted, is talking to somebody who knows about it because they can offer you a different perspective. And that's where you bring in study groups. Study groups can be very beneficial because somebody who has picked up points A might help somebody who's only noticed points B and C, but together you have points A to C. And that makes it more multifaceted, more beneficial, and indeed it allows you to be more knowledgeable on the whole because you're having different perspectives and different ideas on the same topic. Now, let's get back to talking to you a little bit about the SQ3R technique. Some people also call it the SQ3R method, and actually there are several articles as well. Whilst I was researching this episode, there are several articles, several websites that actually talk to you a lot about that. So let's stop sharing this screen on Pomodoro Focus. And let's show you something on the SQ3R method. So there are actually a lot of universities across the UK that would actually write about the SQ3R method. So I'm going to reference a website from the University of York. So let me just share my screen because visual aids really help us here. So the SQ3R method, let me just accept the cookies here, it just reiterates everything I've just said. Survey, question, read, recite, and review. It's a method that's used for reading and studying, and it goes through each of the methods and it puts it in a very colourful and succinct format. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of the SQ3R method for students and for those who have employed it. These benefits also have a mental health benefit as well in terms of reducing stress. And that's the one I want to start on. The SQ3R method can actually help to reduce stress because it breaks down the learning process into manageable steps, which can actually reduce stress. It can also improve your organisational skills, time management, focus, and prior knowledge. Now let's actually delve into each of those in turn. Organisation and skills. Why? Because you have a structure, because you have a set idea of what you're going to do. Time management, it actually allows you to plan a certain time, which goes back to what we were saying about Pomodoro Focus with time blocking. Prior knowledge, well, because it activates that prior knowledge through active recall, allows your brain to continue to reiterate information that you might have learned or studied hitherto. It actually also provides a very succinct and developed study guide because this study guide that is written or typed would provide a good overview of the topic in terms of key questions, because if you think about what it actually talks about, this study guide would actually entail an overview, key questions, reading those questions, reciting and reviewing, which actually when you come back to study that later on, you've basically built yourself a textbook. Also, it helps you to develop your questioning skills because you're actually developing in stage 2, you are developing questions that you'd like to pose on a particular topic or on a particular method. It also can streamline the learning process and make study sessions more efficient through time efficiency, but while also boosting simultaneously long-term memory retention beyond examinations, because you actually build and you've adopted a structure in your everyday study lives. And finally, improve comprehension. It allows readers and those who use it to actively engage with the material, leading to deeper understanding and better retention. Now, I want to pick out something that has really been at the forefront of these study methods. Back to active recall. Active recall is a very, very beneficial study skill in students. I'm just going to pull up some of the benefits really about active recall. It actually strengthens neural connections for long-term memory. It actually enhances your cognitive learning. It improves your long-term memory, it prepares you for examinations, it develops a muscle of your brain, and can indeed be combined with other strategies. So let's actually kind of delve into a couple of those in turn. I'm going to choose to pick out the improving of the long-term memory. Now, it's been termed here to be a workout for your memory because it helps move information from short-term to long-term memory, which makes it easier to find information again when you need it. And also, a study by a website called Subject Guide talks about how it improves long-term memory material. But also here, we have that it actually helps to develop your brain's muscle. So let's talk a little bit about going back now to the SQ3R method. I actually want to kind of pick out some statistics as well in terms of the benefits of this method. So it's actually helped people level up their study skills, and actually want to kind of just give you a little bit of history on the SQ3R strategy, because it was developed by Robinson in 1941, and actually even now in 2024 it is still very, very beneficial and indeed very helpful as well. And so what I always say, I'm the kind of person who, if I'm going to podcast or talk about anything, I like to understand the history as well. So I just wanted to share that with you. So that is the SQ3R method, as you can see here on this website from the University of York, summarising it here. So feel free to check out this website as well. But also going in 2025, I will be bringing my website back as well. It's under construction, and all these guides will be loaded and will be stored on this website as well. So you can actually, on my website, so you can actually access that in turn. In the interim, do feel free to rewatch this episode and just kind of reacquaint yourselves with the key aspects of SQ3R. Now, onto these statistics. Students who use SQ3R retain up to 80% more information after 2 weeks compared to passive reading methods. That was a study conducted by Thomas and Roberts in 1972. Some more recent studies were a study by McDaniel et al. In 2008 under the comprehension, which found that 75% of students improved comprehension scores by actively applying SQ3R to textbook readings. And just two more stats that I feel like are very beneficial for us all today. Study efficiency. Learners who adopted structured study techniques such as SQ3R completed tasks 30% faster whilst achieving higher test scores, and that was by the Education Research International in 2015. And finally, last but certainly not least, is engagement. Over 70% of students reporting feeling more confident. So over 70% of students reported feeling more confident in tackling complex reading tasks after using the SQ3R method, and that was actually presented by the Journal of Effective Teaching in 2018. So let me stop sharing my screen. So part 3 actually, which is something I actually jumped to because it actually kind of it was relevant earlier on, is the Pomodoro Technique. So the Pomodoro Technique, again, it's a key to studying smarter, because a key to studying smarter is managing time effectively. You cannot really study smarter unless you have really harnessed the key to adopting efficient time techniques. One of the best tools for this is the Pomodoro Technique, as is mentioned, but I just want to reiterate it. So you can use apps like Pomofocus. So again, just to reiterate, the Pomodoro method, you work in 25-minute blocks with 5-minute breaks in between. After 4 Pomodoros, take a longer break. Again, it keeps your focus high while avoiding burnout. And you can use free apps like Pomofocus. Let's just show Pomofocus once again, which will basically help you to do this. So let me just show you Pomofocus, which is literally just told me time for a break. So here you go. This is Pomofocus as well. So I just want to look at the Pomodoro Technique really in terms of some statistics, because for those who have followed me for quite a while, they will know I love my statistics as well, because in terms of the benefits of it, I think it's really important to look at these statistics as well, because these are studies, this is evidence basically to show you all how students across the world, across the UK, have actually actively benefited from the techniques that I have suggested. And the technique can help those with ADHD plan their day, reduce distractions, and improve focus. So if you do have ADHD, please comment down below if it helped you. Just some benefits of the Pomodoro method before we conclude: productivity, focus, time management, memory, stress reduction, again, such as just akin to the SQ3R method, motivation, a reduction in distractions, and then, as we mentioned, the ADHD point, helping those with ADHD plan their day. It helps you to get more work done in less time. And trust me, I use the Pomodoro method actively. I love it. I find it very, very beneficial. So do stay tuned for a TikTok video where I will actually show you me actually actively using the Pomodoro method as well. And do follow us on TikTok in particular, because this week alone, I've put a lot of videos. I did my first video actually speaking to you in Spanish. I do speak Spanish, so I put my first video there as well, introducing myself in Spanish. I've actually put a video. I've started a 5-part series there. I'm preparing for university. I've actually shown you a day in my life as a studentpreneur, as a CEO student. Do follow at Faith Brunel's Insights on TikTok. Also, a video today where I've actually put some packing tips from myself as a KCL graduate, and also last week's podcast episode was on there about networking 101, key tips from the FBI CRC podcast, and I shared my journey of bullying post anti-bullying week as well, so you can watch all of that on the TikTok. So let's conclude, as I am going to be heading to another meeting after this to engage some students actually who are working on the FBI business. Statistically, the Pomodoro method and a report from the University of Illinois has revealed that breaking tasks into smaller intervals increases the likelihood of completing them by 60% because it prevents feelings of being overwhelmed. But also there was a recent research published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology that showed that employees who use time blocking techniques such as the Pomodoro experience a 40% decrease in mental exhaustion compared to those who work continuously. And finally, a study here from 2019 survey, 85% of students and professionals who tried the Pomodoro technique reported improvements in time management and task prioritization. So that just goes to show the benefits, the real-time benefits of the Pomodoro method. And we are identifying the Pomodoro method isn't age-specific. You can use the Pomodoro method if you're working, if you're a CEO, if you are a student, wherever you are in your life. The Pomodoro method is free to use. It's a free structure to use. All you need is a time tracking device to track that 25 minutes. It could be a stopwatch, could be a phone, a watch, whatever it may be, could be a clock, just making sure that you're able to track those 25 minutes succinctly. And 2 other techniques, you've heard about active recall a lot today. I've embedded it through each study skill I've recommended, but also spaced repetition, which involves actually actively reviewing material at increasing intervals over time, optimizing your learning and helping transfer knowledge from short-term to long-term memory. You know what active recall is, how it's testing yourself on the material rather than just passively reading it and reviewing it. So the way that you can actually actively use these 2 techniques is through Anki and Quizlet. So do check out my previous video where I spoke about tech that you can use, and I spoke about another video as well on study techniques that actually work, where we actually spoke about Quizlet as well, where you can actually create flashcards and practice actively. We can actually actively practice active recall, which is great, especially with spaced repetition algorithms built in as well. And I just want to end again with some statistics, because I want to show you the benefits of spaced repetition and just show you some statistics and the benefits of it. So spaced repetition, as we said, it's really where we review material at increasing intervals to optimize retention and combat forgetting information. It boosts long-term retention. It enhances learning efficiency, prevents cramming, customizes your learning experience, which goes back to what we're talking about today, which is the importance of studying smarter and not longer, to improve your test performance, and just to end with some statistics before I show you Quizlet and Anki, there was a study by Capita et al. 2006, which found that students using spaced repetition retained 50% more material after a month compared to those using traditional maths cramming study techniques. And also a research from Cornell in 2009, Cornell with a K, not a C, efficiency in learning, showed that spaced repetition is 30% more time efficient than traditional study methods. Why? Because learners spend less time reviewing material that they already know. So just finally, before I end today's episode, I just want to show you both Quizlet and Anki, just really briefly. But Anki is spelled A-N-K-I and Quizlet is Q-I-Z-L-E-T, just for clarification. So that's Anki there on the web. Anki, so it's https://apps.ankiweb.net, where you can download an app for Anki, and Quizlet is quizlet.com as well. So those are the two to share. So let's conclude this. Hopefully this episode has been really beneficial for all of you. I personally enjoyed making this episode as well. In conclusion, studying smart is about using efficient techniques that maximize memory retention in a shorter amount of time. The SQ3R method, active recall, spaced repetition, and time management tools such as the Pomodoro method are just a few ways to ensure you're studying efficiently. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on study strategies and productivity. And please be sure to check the links in the description to dive deeper into those techniques and get started on your path to smarter studying. I'm Faith B. I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, and our next episode will be focused specifically on the art of deep work, achieve focus in a distracted world. Thanks all, and I hope you continue studying, stay confident, and stay sure of yourself because you're all champions. See you in 2 weeks. Bye all.